Innistrad Midnight Hunt has struck a fine balance between paying homage to earlier sets on the horror plane and creating its own identity as well. So, with so much flavour to choose from, what are our top flavour picks from the set? Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast. We talk about all things magic, flavour design and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mam.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
And today is our Flavour Picks episode for Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So, as people who know the podcast will understand, we do several episodes, obviously with a new release, as every Magic the Gathering content creator does. But for planes that we return to, we tend to do a hype episode, we tend to do a mechanics episode, a Flavour Picks episode, and then we will talk for about 2 years about the story, because there is obviously a lot to get through. Today is our Flavour Picks episode. So what we do is we pick 5 individual cards, or well, no, we don't. We pick 5 things. So they could be an individual card. They could be a cycle of cards that we like. They could be the artwork in general could be one of our 5 things. Basically, anything that we feel has really captured for us what the set means and what the set is about. And we also put in an honourable mention. So essentially getting 12. You're getting 12 flavour picks because there's 6 from each of us. We are pushed for time because we have lives. I also have a cold, so I sound like garbage. This is professional podcasting at its finest. So we are going to jump in and we're going to be super fast with this because I also kind of feel like people don't need us to tell them our flavour picks because this set is just chock full of everything and anything. There's references to all the sets. There's a bajillion alt art borders. There's like humour and puns in almost every single card because Magic is really leaning into that at the moment. So I'm sure this is kind of superfluous listening. Again, professional podcasting. Listen for another minute and a half. We still get a download on our server, and then you can turn off and go about your day. There we go. All right, Nathan, jump in. What's your honourable mention?
So I've got a couple. One of them is they're both. I've got a lot of black cards listed outside of my top 5, and then my top 5 doesn't have a single black card, which is really strange. So my 2 honourable mentions. One of them, Defenestrate. We got Defenestrate as a card. It's one of these words that I'm always like, because I'm a wordy kind of person, and whenever I tell people like I'm a wordy person, they go, "Oh, tell me a word that I probably don't know." I'm like, "Okay, Defenestrate." And they go, "What does that mean?" It's like, "Will the 3 be thrown out a window?" Like, well, how do you know that? I'm like, "Because I know words." Like, you know, that's how it works. But yeah, the Defenestrate, destroy target creature without flying. I like the idea that the flavor text, the chaplain would perhaps have found some small comfort had he known that the replacement window would have been named in his honour. Fantastic. Beautiful. I love it. It's just one of these throw someone out of a window card. Why Innistrad? Not sure. I love it. Love to see it. And then my other honourable mention is Rotted Reunion. Specifically because the artwork is a throwback to American Gothic painting by Grant Wood from 1930. You're kind of always like typical, like it's not scary. It's just It's just typical your horror looking kind of where like Amityville horror would like come from. It feels like that kind of background. As he says, it's basically a typical looking Gothic building with the kind of couple he thought would be living in the house. And in the artwork, you've got a similar thing. It's not a big ass manor. It's more of a dilapidated building, and the couple in the foreground are decaying zombies. It doesn't matter what the card does, it's just the fact they threw it back. It's quite nice to have some classic Gothic horror in what is essentially the classic Gothic horror set. So,
it's interesting. That really surprised me when they put that in the set because Magic does have a history of kind of paying homage to famous artworks, or like back in the day they used to have straight up quotes in the flavor text from things like Shakespeare and stuff like that. But I mean, the only other one that kind of springs to mind immediately is that rampant growth, my gosh, I can't talk today, is the Great Wave of Kanagawa. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of really, they haven't done that for a while, at least not quite so blatantly. So yeah, it's kind of a crazy one that they do that. The AD for this set was Taylor Ingvarsson, who, I mean, is just one of the best ADs in Magic easily. So yeah, you can tell visually this set is going to be absolutely amazing. My honourable mention is a dishonourable mention. That's right, Nathan. I'm going to be complaining from the top of the episode. Dragons.
Oh, yes! Thank you! That's mine! I've literally written down the bottom. I'm like, how could you fail at dragons so bad? Right, carry on, yes.
Dragons on Innistrad, Nathan. Why do we need dragons on Innistrad? They showed grit and just some gumption in not putting goblins in Innistrad. And not only do they have dragons this time around again, so they've made the same mistake 3 times, 1 for each block, they've put 3 dragons in this set. And that's not including Drakes either, because they also decided Drakes needed to be in Innistrad as well. So I literally just typed in just dragons, and there's one per set from original Innistrad block. We have Mirrorwing Dragon from Shadows over Innistrad. Eldritch Moon. And then, we've got 3. Moonveil Dragon, Purifying Dragon, and Smouldering Egg, which flips into Ashmouth Dragon. Get over dragons, Wizards! Every other set has dragons. I like, it's the biggest of bugbears. And I'm sure there'll be someone on social media that'll be going, but Andy, dragons have been part of Germanic horror and folklore for the longest bloody time. I'm like, when was the last slasher fic you saw where they pulled off the mask and it was a fucking dragon? Doesn't exist. Actually doesn't exist, though. Like, I just...
They would have gotten away with it, too.
Yeah.
New meddling planeswalkers. Amazing.
I just don't understand. There's nothing horrifying about it. But do you know what's even more egregious? Do you know what's even more egregious than that? Is that each one of the dragons, Archwing Dragon, Balefire Dragon, Mirrorwing Dragon, Moonveil Dragon, Moonveil Regent, Purifying Dragon, and those 5, they all share an aesthetic similarity. They do look, if you were to go, well, all right, Innistrad has dragons, what does an Innistrad dragon looks like? You could point to any one of those and be like, yep, that's what they're going for. They've got very delicate-looking wings. Most of them have sort of some mirror or rainbow aesthetic. They've got long, like, wyverny necks. They're very slender, that's it. And then you look at Ashmouth Dragon, and it's just a fucking beefy dragon.
It's just a different type of dragon. This was my exact thing. Right, so my big gripe, because I didn't even see Purifying Dragon for some reason. I skipped that over. My brain just ignored that one, because I don't mind like the stained glass effect on a Moonveil Regent and the Moon Silver Dragon, for example. Because I quite like. I think that's a cool aesthetic. I like the idea of it. I don't like the fact they look a little bit like Ujatai kind of dragons, like the Skywise kind of dragons. That kind of whatever, but. You look at Balefire Leech or Balefire Dragon, looks completely different to the Moonveil region, and then that again looks completely different to the Ashmouth Dragon. And the Ashmouth Dragon looks like really cool different flames that we haven't really seen before. But how is there 2 different types of the physiology, the biology of this, Wizards? Make more sense, have consistency, or don't even fucking bother.
Just don't bother.
Yeah, I agree.
They don't need dragons.
I agree with you entirely. Yeah,
it's like if they went with Kamigawa, like Neon Dynasty, and they were like, oh yeah, by the way, satyrs are on Kamigawa now. You'd be like, what? Why?
Centaurs or something, just because, why not?
Why not? Oh, it's because, it's like a staple of Magic. Like, no, awful, terrible. They shouldn't have brought them back. As much as this set is great, that is my biggest gripe. Moving on.
Yeah, exactly. Good. I like it. Oh, the synergy there. Beautiful. Equally outraged. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start off with a cycle. And that cycle is the Adversary cycle. And okay, cool. They're the big premier like mythics of the set. They all have the same idea and same kind of framework to the way they play, and that's that when they enter the battlefield, you may pay either a cost any number of times. It's essentially multi-kicker. It's multi-kicker, but without having to cast it. So it's on any ETB, you may pay an additional cost, and then for the number of times you've paid that cost, something will happen. Either you'll put +1/+1 counters on the creature, you might even put Valor counters on the creature, and then they'll do something else as well. So, for example, Intrepid Adversary, 3/1 for 1 and a white lifelink Human Scout. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 and a white any number of times. When you pay this cost 1 or more times, put that many Valor counters on Intrepid Adversary. Creatures you control get +1/+1 for each Valor counter on Intrepid Adversary, also counting itself. So the interesting thing is all of the other ones do just add an additional counter, but the blue one phases out artifacts, enchantments, or creatures based on how many times you activate it. Tainted Adversary makes 2 times the number of times you've activated it of decaying 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Bloodthirsty Adversary, the vampire, you get to exile that many instant or sorcery cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. You may copy and cast them without paying their mana costs. And the green one animates your lands into 3/3 wolf creatures for each time you've activated it. Really cool, really nice scaling abilities. They're all quite decent on the front face anyway. What's really cool about this, fuck all of what I just said before, because it doesn't really matter about any of the text. That's not what I'm here for. What I'm here for is that essentially all 5 of these characters in artwork are in the same house, the same manner, and each artwork leads. So the white one has the hand of the spectral adversary in it, and the spectral adversary, you see the hand of the tainted adversary kind of creeping up. You see the bat in the background of the tainted adversary. It's clearly the vampire, and the vampire it's following the claw marks of the primal adversary, which is the wolf, and in the wolf you see the hat that's the intrepid adversary. These 5 different guys just kind of do this Cluedo thing, chasing each other around this building in almost like a battle royale. Now that is so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why it's so cool to me, but it's just so cool having one of each of these. It's almost like they all set their champion into this manner to duke it out with each other.
Yeah.
God, it feels like a game of like fucking Time Splitters or something. It's fucking great.
Yeah, it's great.
It wriggles me all in the right ways. I love it.
I also love on Bloodthirsty Adversary, which is the vampire one. Is bringing back this. Again, it's a callback to other Innistrad sets where vampires have crossbows and like hand crossbows. Like they're not only are they probably the apex humanoid predator on the plane, they also have like effectively guns.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? They're that much better at everything. Like, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
How do you load crossbows when you've got two?
Oh no, you've ruined it now.
You know what I mean, though? Like, unless it's like auto. I'm just looking. I mean, it looks really cool, but you fire them once, and then you just have to do this like awkward thing of where, like, how do you?
Yeah.
Hold
on.
One second, let me put down one. Yep. Let me which one. Wait. I've still got the other one to go. Put the other one down. Oh, good. One shot. Challenge. That's the thing. They don't need more than one shot, Andy. They're vampires. They've got amazing aim.
If anything, like Markov Blademaster, the flavor text on that card read something like that humans only have one lifetime to perfect their craft, and vampires have centuries or something. So
Yeah.
It's, I think vampires just. I mean, if you can live forever, anything you're going to do is just. I just don't like. No wonder like Soren created Avacyn. Like the vampires just running rampant, crazy.
I think also I like the fact that out of the cycle, the white one's the only one that has multiple characters because it takes 3 humans to be as good as a spirit, a zombie, a vampire, or a fuck off wolf, which I think's quite funny. But yeah, cool. That's my initial one. I just really like it when they do these kind of like almost panoramic kind of cards of where they add multiple different artworks that all kind of represent each other, or maybe even take place in the same space. And they're all different artists as well, so it's not even like the one person. I mean, clearly it was a deliberate artistic choice to go, no, let's make it all seem like these are all in the same house doing the same little mini story. It's very cool. Like it.
Very, very cool. All right. My first actual flavor pick is Reckless Stormseeker, which is 2 and a red for a human werewolf, 2/3. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 against haste until end turn. It has Daybound, and on the back of it, it is a Stormcharged Slasher, a 3/4 werewolf. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gets +2/+0 against trample and haste until end of turn, Nightbound. And the artwork is by Manuel Castanon. We spoke about this card last week. But I'm going to talk about it this week. It's a werewolf with a lightning jetpack.
Lightning jetpack.
Like, what more do I need to talk about? Like, it's a werewolf with a lightning jetpack.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Now, the only flavor fail is that the front side doesn't have flying.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know. It looks like a jetpack. I actually don't know if that's exactly what this mechanism is. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't meant to be something like that. But anyway, the flavor of this card, the reason I like this card, is because it kind of harkens back to when we were talking about what we're hyped for. And we were talking about the werewolves in general and how they've sort of branched out with the flavor of werewolves, that they're not just the red and green humans of the plane. It's like any human can have lycanthropy. Any human can be a werewolf, like if they're either by accident or through design. And it's only the ones that live in the hunt packs that are like the kind of feral gruel color ones. Everyone else is just kind of living their life and just happens to be a werewolf. Like there's that stowaway card that turns into a werewolf on the back half, and he's blue on the front half. That kind of thing. We already spoke about this, about how like the wizards of the plane, or indeed the inventors of the plane, could also just happen to be werewolves. And I just really like this continued idea. I mean, obviously this card is red on both sides, so it kind of puts paid to my color theory. But yeah, just everything about it. The Manuel Castanon art is absolutely beautiful. I really love the sort of narrative again of these flip cards, where on the front half the Stormseeker human is charging up their jetpack like device, and on the back half you see it crashed and the werewolf has the energy absorbed into them. It's the storm charged slasher. So I just love all that little narrative as well. Again, the sun setting on the front half and then the full moon rise in the back on the back half of the card also just gives a really nice nightbound, daybound aesthetic as well. This card also, like most, in fact, all of the flip cards, also has an Equinox showcase border, which is beautiful. I don't think we're going to get much time to talk about it today, but these showcase borders are amazing. And Michael Walsh is the artist for the Equinox artwork, and they've done a similar thing, obviously because it's the same character, but it's a different rig. So instead of it being like a big like backpack jetpack thing, this is more like a chesty, like with power sort of nodes on the back of it on the front half of the human, and on the back half the werewolf is still fully wearing the rig, so it hasn't like burst out of it or crashed out of it. It's now basically just a werewolf in a mech suit, and that's just fucking brilliant. Like, I just love everything about that. They seem to have this thing in Innistrad where people just really love seeing wolves and technology. Like, what was the was it
Oh, the
lycanthrope lupine
prototype.
prototype?
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, which again was just a werewolf mech. I just
yeah,
love
it was
like
really
someone
cool.
someone at Wizards really wants to see an anime where werewolves like are inside giant robots. I'd watch that. So yeah,
I'd watch
but
it
yeah,
as well. Yeah.
it's a really simple card. It seems kind of like a bit memey and a bit inconsequential, which isn't really my thing. But I actually think within Reckless Stormseeker, there's a lot about this set, and like a lot of the humor that they've injected into Innistrad this time around. Like the last set when we were there for all Eldrazi Eldritch nonsense was quite serious throughout the set, whereas the original
Mm.
Innistrad did have these little bits of levity, and I think they brought it back for Midnight Hunt, and I hope they continue it through, which it seems like they will be doing in Crimson Vow. I think Crimson Vow is going to be very campy and very fun. So yeah, Reckless
Mm.
Stormseeker, great
Yeah,
card.
cool. Yeah, I like the fact that this flip side looks like he's like, no, I've wrecked my rig.
Oh right,
No.
that is a good way of looking at it. Yeah, the werewolf's like, God no, I made it
Every
bigger on purpose.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the front side, he's actually trying to escape the sunset. He's like, no, I can't break another one. It's the fourth time this week.
Oh wow,
Love it.
that's a whole little story I didn't even look into. I like it
Uh,
even more. There we go.
I know, right? Amazing. So my second card is where I think the adversary cycle took place, and it's my only flip card in my top five. Considering I massively laud transform cards. Hostile Hostel, which flips into Creeping In, which both naming conventions,
Yeah,
yummy,
creeping
yummy,
in is
right?
great. Yeah.
Right, and this is the Hostile Hostel is fantastic. Like I feel like a hostel doesn't make sense to be on Innistrad. I feel like it would be an inn, or something. I feel like they kind of stretched the name a little bit to be a bit more punny, but that's fine by me. So land taps for a colorless. You can pay 1 tap, sacrifice a creature to put a soul counter on Hostile Hostel. Then if there are 3 or more soul counters on it, remove those counters, transform it, and untap it. Activate only as a sorcery, and it flips into a 3/7 horror construct artifact creature.
Yeah.
When Creeping In attacks, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creature cards exiled with Creeping In. 4, just 4 generic, Creeping In phases out. That's a lot of stuff going on, but what I really
Yeah.
like about this is the idea that it's a haunted house, and
Yeah.
the more souls that die within it, eventually it becomes animated, and it takes on the attributes of the people that get died within it. I just really like this idea. I don't think we've really got one. We've got like Gaia Reach Sanitarium, obviously in the in Eldritch Moon or Shadows over Innistrad. I can't remember which one it was. I don't think we got like we got a few different, obviously, like places within like legendary places within Innistrad, but we didn't actually get like a haunted house, and this just very much fits that kind of trope. Because I was kind of looking through for some like typical tropes that you normally find, and there aren't as many, but I feel this is one that they didn't necessarily lean into. The backside gets a bit less very confusing as well. Is it eating the souls of the people that are within it? It doesn't matter. How does it phase out? Well, it goes back to being a house. Of course, it goes back to being a house. But yeah, very cool. I like the idea that it's just a normal looking house before it comes out. You also get Hanwe Battlement and Hanwe the Writhing Township kind of vibes from this.
Like Innistrad does a really good job of having buildings be characters. I mean, obviously, lots of the time in lands, which makes sense for buildings, or like I suppose you can make them like artifacts, but that's not really like what Innistrad's about. But yeah, they really do make locations like feel like they're part of the plane, like Westphal Abbey turning into Ormondale Prince Profane from the last set as well. And that whole cycle, which you had like Alchemist's Refuge and things like that all going on, those kind of 2-color things, Gavany Township. Because in horror, the location is a massive part of what's going on. And yeah, you're right, they haven't done like a flat out haunted house on a land in that way before. So for them to do it this time around it makes a lot of sense.
I just want one line of flavor text. Enjoy your stay. Just something like that would have been really nice. I feel like you could have fit it in. They didn't. Whatever. I guess I get over it. We make our own flavor.
Cool. So my next flavor pick is Tapping at the Window, which is 1 and a green for a sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest into your graveyard, and has flashback for 2 and a green. And the artwork is by Nils Ham, which is great to see Nils again. This card, for me, the reason this is one of my flavor picks is that it sort of just exemplifies what Innistrad is all about. Like, you can't have this card in any other set. For me, it's sort of like the spiritual successor to something like Bump in the Night from original Innistrad, or from Under the Floorboards from the last set that we were in, because it's one of these simple little fears that humans have kind of developed, like either through evolution or through like sort of conditioning through society, of well, we've built up like buildings and constructs and ideas about what scares us. And this idea of something tapping at your window and you don't know what it is, and it's always a tree. Like the artwork by Nils Hamm is just a tree branch, right, tapping at the window. Despite the fact there are tree folk on Innistrad that are pretty scary. But I just love these cards that couldn't be in any other set, you know? The flavor within the card as well is also really tight. Like, it took me a couple of reads to really get it, but it's the idea that, the person looking outside of their window and seeing this tree branch, they know it's a tree branch, but in their head it could be anything. So the mechanic of you looking at the top 3 cards of your library, it could be something really terrifying, or it could be nothing at all, and then you put a creature card in your hand and you can play it next turn. And then the idea that the flashback is the fact that this like fear, this whole like little dance of like, oh my god, what's that outside my window, happens again the next night. Like, so you can do it again with flashback. It's just really nice, and I really like these low to the ground cards that really typify a plane's flavor, because it sort of validates the idea that you have different planes, they have different things going on, and the people on those different planes have different fears and different whatever, that all feed into like the whole rich tapestry of like our real world. And yeah, it just sort of validates the idea that you don't have to set everything on Dominaria. We don't always have to keep going back to Ravnica for these cards. Like, individual planes can have quite quiet, sort of subtle, not huge bombastic flavor, but that really screws into what the plane's all about. So yeah, tapping out the window. For me, this might be quite egregious to say, it's almost flavor wise a perfect card, and I'm really happy that it's in this set.
Yeah, that idea of flashback, of the fear creeping back again and again, like this. It's a really kind of subtle. It's a mechanic of Magic. Obviously, it helps give the card utility, but it plays into that idea of fears never really go away. They do repeat themselves. And it's quite nice to see them do a different take on it's Grapple with the Past, I think it was, where they did a similar effect about this, like chucking a coin down. Make a Wish was right, chucking the coin down the well, and then Emrakul grabbing the little doll from Grapple with the Past. And it's almost like the same kind of like effect, but they keep kind of doing the flavor of it really, really well. Yeah, very cool. As you say, Innistrad through and through.
Yeah,
very nice. Cool. So from one kind of like gut, like visceral feelingy kind of card to another one. Also green, weirdly enough, I've got Join the Dance.
nice.
Green and white for a sorcery. Create 2/1/1 white human creature tokens. Also has flashback for 3 green and a white. Flavor text: we can go into the dark hand in hand or alone. I know which I prefer. And bear with me, I'm just going to scroll in and get the artist, because the art's very good. Rael Vitale is the artist, and the reason I like this is because it's one of the few POV cards that you get, the point of view cards that Innistrad does quite well. Like Village Cannibals is obviously the eponymous like prime example of this from the original Innistrad, of where you don't realize how creepy the card is until you realize all the faces staring at you are staring at you while you're lying in bed when the local cult comes to take you away. And this has very similar vibes, because it looks like, okay, cool, you're creating human tokens, we're getting part of this, part of the festival and part of the dance. And this is one of the initial cards that was kind of like not leaked, but initially spoiled, where they gave us just a few little tastes of what
it was the preview. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one that came out halfway through Zendikar. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And the thing I really like about it is this idea, that culty feeling, and this is what I kind of really liked going into this Innistrad, of it creates that kind of, imagine going to a random village and the villagers, like Midsummer is obviously the really good example of this, and having that kind of falling into the environment without realizing it is kind of trying to ensnare you and kind of take you with it, and who knows where it's going to go. And like, if you look at the picture, and it's like they've got candles and stuff in their hair, like the effigy behind is burning. Yes, it's of a werewolf, but I mean, it's not necessarily the most yay kind of like, yeah, okay, they're dancing around, but there's like an ominous kind of feeling to it, and the flavor text as well of going, there's no victory. It's either we can go into the dark hand in hand or alone. It's like, so either way you're dying.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying right now. So you're not saying like, hey, come, we might be able to escape this. It's like, no, let's face this together. And it's like, but, okay, what, dancing around a set? Okay, sure, if you've already given in, I guess, fine, cool. But yeah, it's almost like that inevitability but like that joy is kind of inevitably. Almost, it also has that kind of hint of human optimism, right? Of dancing in the face of just of imminent doom. But yeah, it just gives you those weird, creepy, culty vibes. Like again, it's the Resident Evil 4 in me of wait, don't go to a random village in Europe. Like you won't come back again. You'll
Yeah.
end up being burnt, killed, put up on a meat hook somewhere. It's just no bueno, no buenas noches. And
Yeah.
again, it's a green-white card. It's just and I feel like it's a very ominous card. It's scarier than some of the black cards and other cards in the set that are supposed to be scary. I feel like this is supposed to be a card that represents camaraderie, and it's like, no, for me, this is being indoctrinated into the fold.
Selesnya colours do have that going for them. Like they play on that in Ravnica a lot, and I don't think it gets enough airtime in the kind of like Magic zeitgeist. Green white is a very insidious color pairing from whatever perspective you're going through, and I think whenever people talk about the sort of very basic, black is evil, white is good, red is angry, like Magic color wheel versus the more nuanced, like, well, no, white is pious and black is selfish, and red is impulsive, and where all those kind of lines blur. Green white, I think, is a very good example of going like, these are the quote unquote nice colors, and when they're put together, there are some really quite dark things that you can do with them. And so, yeah, I think this is, you're right. It's a perfect example of that.
Okay, just present it. I like the front face. This is for the set as well, because it does have that kind of feeling throughout it. Of even the good bits are like you can't really work out where the good in Innistrad is anymore. Yeah, all the humans are turning into werewolves. You can't trust anybody, and even those tried to save us are cultist warlocks.
Yeah,
great, good time to be on
Innistrad. That's Innistrad, isn't it? Like, that's
right.
through.
Exactly.
Cool. My next pick is, of course it is. Who else? It's Arlen, the Pack's Hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
It.
Yeah. I don't. This doesn't even need to be one of my flavor picks. I don't think. I think it's just that obvious. Yeah, Arlen's back. Arlen Cord, easily one of the coolest characters in Magic. Easily one of the coolest planeswalkers. And also gets 3 amazing artworks in this set as well. So Arlen Pack's Hope is 2 red-green for a legendary planeswalker. Arlen has Daybound and Nightbound, which is cool. The front side is, until your next turn, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it for +1. The -3 is create 2 green wolf creature tokens. The backside is +2 for green-red, and 0 until end of turn. Arlen, the Moon's Fury, becomes a 5/5 werewolf creature with trample, indestructible, and haste. And obviously the backside is werewolf Arlen, and the front side is human Arlen with some wolves. Although slight flavor fail, with 3 wolves on the front half of the Anna Steinbauer art, even though she only creates 2. But whatever, that's fine.
Well, she doesn't have any wolves, and she has 1 pupper in the Eric Deschamps artwork. She's got 2
a bear cub, in fact.
In the Emma Rios. Is it a bear cub?
It's a bear cub.
Oh, God. Are there bears? Oh, yeah, it says Grizzly Ghoul. Right, never mind. Carry
on. Yeah, there's, like, in terms of, like, individual flavour of the card, it's just a very solid Arlen Planeswalker. I do like the fact that the back half, Arlen Moon's Fury, with the 0 cost, you can get stuck in as a werewolf. Gives any Planeswalkers that tend to turn into creatures and attack, so like your Gideons and your Sarkans generally, I'm never sure how I quite feel about them, but for some reason, maybe it's just because I love Arlen Cord, this one feels right, and especially feels right for the set as well, that she is like defending her pack or like attacking like other sort of like dire overlords like Tovalar. Is it Tovalar or Tolavar? I can never get it right.
If I'm not looking at it, it's Tovalar. If I'm reading it correctly, I think it's Tovalar.
Oh well, there we go. That one. So yes, so the idea that Arlen can kind of get an attack, which you didn't get on the last proper Arlen Planeswalker. I'm not really counting the War of the Spark one. It's also really nice to see Arlen looking like a middle-aged woman, which is what she is, as opposed to, for some reason, on the War of the Spark Planeswalker, she looked like she was like 19, 20, and I was like, well, that like, it's not the whole agency of the character is the fact that they're a middle-aged woman, but it is something to do with their character, and indeed, like, giving a character of that description some more agency rather than just being like the Mother Luti figure, with Jaya Ballard. I love Jaya Ballard, don't get me wrong, but they're very much just now slotted into the role of the mother figure for Chandra. So to have like another character that's not just a dude or an immortal like female character who could be 500 but might as well be like 22. Yeah, I don't know. Just for me, something for that me, it's nice to see like this kind of come back in. So we got Anna Steinbauer for the like regular artwork. Oh, everything Anna Steinbauer does, I absolutely love. Same with Eric Deschamps with the like alternate full frameless, borderless. I don't know what we're calling it. Artwork, and then we have for the Equinox, because Arlen also gets an Equinox showcase border. It's Emma Rios, which shows Arlen's sort of like mid transformation, because Arlen's got like really decent control over their lycanthropy. Like it doesn't matter for them like what time of day it is; they can just like do whatever. So you see Arlen with a werewolf hand and then a human everything else, which is very very creepy. But yeah, I mean, there's not a huge amount to say in terms of like flavor. But yeah, Arlen's back and Arlen's great.
I'm glad that they went with the her original like almost Cathar kind of outfit for Arlen Pax Hope, because it's been a hot minute since we initially read her story, and there has been some like canonical like readjustment in her story if you read through the stories now, and kind of how they talk about how she sparked initially. But I like the fact they throw back and they kind of show, because people look at the showcase and they go, well, why is she dressed up like a Cathar? And you go, well,
and also like why is she
story,
like
sir.
12 as well? Like it should be said the Eric Deschamps front half, Arlen Pax Hope, she like it's Arlen before she's is it before she sparked? No, she is a werewolf,
Yeah,
but it's just before she
she
sparked.
is. This is almost like right at the cusp of where she was still technically within the church, and then when she sparked, she had to kind of like readjust her position in the world a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool because again, it shows like people be like, well, that's wrong, right? And you go, no, that's right actually, and go and look it up because that's her backstory. So yeah. Yeah, I like it's good.
Plebs.
Yeah, exactly. I like the fact that you could kind of show a then and a now kind of thing, right? Because it's kind of in terms of timing, those are very different times. And yes, it's showing the same character, which is kind of maybe a bit weird for some people, but again, it shows you the breadth of her character.
I mean, if you're going to do 3 different artworks for the same fucking card, you might as well do something different with one of them.
Do some scope, exactly. I agree entirely.
Cool.
Cool. So from one lass who's got wholesome intentions to one who has entirely non-wholesome intentions, devious cover-up. 2 blue for an instant. Counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. You may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. Not that's what it's just a common counter spell, right? Well, let's look at the flavor text. Widow Weaver's new scarecrow seemed to attract more crows than it scared off. Again, okay, cool, but maybe she made it more attractive, right? Well, no, if you look at the artwork, it's her fucking husband. She strapped her husband up as a scarecrow. And what I love, right, is that in Innistrad, when you counter spells, they go to the graveyard, right? Whereas if you're going to exile, if you're countering spell and then you're going to exile it, it's because then you can't just go and dig it back up again. Like the graveyard's very easy to access. I feel like exiling effects kind of shows that when something's eaten, like there's another black card that has a similar effect of where it's like like consume. Oh, let me just get the actual card. Eaten alive. And it exiles the creature instead of destroying the creature, because I feel like you can't resurrect something that's in chunks, right?
Yeah.
You can't resurrect something when it's been consumed. I also like the fact that you shuffle up to 4 cards from your graveyard into your library. She gets everything that's in his will.
Yeah,
she does it for the alimony. It's just I just love this idea that she's killed her husband, straps him up as a scarecrow, and then benefits off of all of the spoils of the house. I mean, Innistrad, man, like this shit can't happen on other planes. It makes me so happy. I don't know why. It's so cruel, and I don't worry, I'll probably end up running this in a couple of decks because the shuffle effect's really really cool. I just love the idea that the wife just kills her husband, straps him as a scarecrow. I complain there weren't enough scarecrows in the set. There were if I looked a little bit harder. And the flavour of it is so good. It's so good because we didn't have that kind of on show, that Jeepers Creepers kind of vibe, right? Of where one of the scarecrows is actually real. It's going to come and feast on you. I mean, most of the scarecrows seem to almost be like helpers, right? Almost like a backseat kind of like the typical artifact. Probably don't have autonomy, or at least not full autonomy and decent. Fucking what's the word I'm looking for when things are intelligent. Sentience, good god, Nathan. Yeah, whereas this is kind of flips that trope and kind of gives it to me, and it's in a nice delicious macabre flavour, which is kind of what I think I want from Innistrad. Is when you look a little deeper, you go, oh god,
yeah,
that's terrible. Yeah, and that's exactly what I want Innistrad to be like. So yeah, devious cover up. Good old Willow Weaver. You got away with it. No one's gonna notice.
Really, really cool. Okay, so my next one is Faithful Mending, which is white and a blue for a instant. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, and then discard 2 cards. Now has flashback for 1 white and a blue. The flavor text reads, "What has been looted can be restored. The church lives on within us." And the artwork is by Caroline Gariba. Yeah, obviously a direct reference to Faithless Looting, which is the red loot effect, as obviously it became. I don't know if this is exactly the same church, but it very well could be. The reason I like this card is not only because it's just a mechanical callback, just in different colours to Faithless Looting, which they've been doing a lot in this set. It's the idea that we've been saying a lot about how the humans on Innistrad have such a tough time of it, and that Innistrad is really a terrible place to live, and everything is so dour, and nothing is good, and nothing really grows. But actually, despite the Lunok Council being complete bastards, despite the angels literally turning on the humans and devouring them all, there is still these pockets of humanity that are actually quite hopeful that we see in this set. And obviously we see it a lot in the sort of warlock aligned green white humans of the plane. That's their whole thing, is that they're trying to stave off the night through hope and through magic. But even the blue white humans who are still very invested in the idea of the church and Avacyn and the angels are still finding ways to keep the faith alive. And I like the flavor text idea that the church is within us. Like the righteous humans will still keep the faith, which is really cool. The aesthetic is still really nice as well. It still ties in, even though it's the church humans. The fact that they're making this Abyssinian collar out of like wicker and straw and ribbon, it still has that kind of very autumnal, very sort of paganistic look to it, rather than the stone or marble. And we see this also with Avacyn's Memorial, which is obviously a mechanical callback to a Chrome's Memorial. This is from the Commander deck rather than the main set. And Avacyn's Memorial is a statue of Avacyn. And the flavor text reads, "They had no marble, so the faithful repaired her likeness with wood, straw, twine, and clay." And yeah, I just really like this aesthetic. I think it's a really sweet, gentle, a little bit like tapping at the window, but in a different way. Like it's not huge, bombastic flavor, but it really grounds where Innistrad is now. And this idea that whilst there is, fights between werewolves and there's going to be this kind of big vampire masquerade, the humans are still just kind of chugging along and still doing their thing. So yeah, flavor home run, everything about it. Really liked it. Really nice, like aesthetically. I don't know, there's something about the artwork on a blue, white, gold border. That aesthetically, this card's really nice as well. So yeah, Faithful Mending.
I feel like in general, like 2-color cards have that really cool border because you get the color in the almost like the internal border, right, just around the artwork, around the rules text. I find that really makes the cards pop, especially when you get to like legends and things where it has that kind of flourish at the top. Like I really feel like it sells, and you can kind of lean into that with the artwork and kind of make the whole card tied together. Whereas I feel like when you do like 3-color, 4-color, 5-color cards, because it's all just gold, it kind of like loses a bit of that pop, that little bit of texture that you kind of get. So yeah, no, I really feel it. And again, the artwork I think in that one's really, really nice. Really nice. Cool. Yeah, very nice. I like when they reverse cards. So if they go, oh, we broke it last time, let's fix it this time.
Yeah.
That's a really nice idea. Cool. Well, my last one is a similar idea actually, because it shows in original, I believe it was in original Innistrad, we had a card called Lunar Mystic. 2 blue blue for a 2/2 human wizard. Whenever you cast instant spell, you may pay 1 if you do draw a card. And it flavor text, I'm pleased this world has learned the moon affects more than the tides, by Tamio, the Moon Sage, kind of talking about, various different scientists, wizards, scholars that have studied the stars and the way that the moon works and everything. Now, in this set, we get Vadrik, Astral Archmage. 1 blue red for a 1/2 human wizard, legendary creature. If it's neither night nor day, it becomes day as Vadrik Astral Archmage enters the battlefield. Instant sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is Vadrik's power. When day becomes night or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadrik. So slightly different swings, still works within the same idea, but it shows this progression of where we had a character kind of shown this cool effect. He seemed different to all of the other mages as well that we saw on Innistrad. Whereas now we've got a proper legendary creature for him, and I don't think we actually saw him on any flavor text or anything to kind of give this precedence. Not like is it Jadar or something? Even the mono black plains legendary creature. He was on plenty of different flavor texts, so it would kind of set a precedence. Whereas with this guy, we didn't necessarily see any kind of insinuation we were going to have him as a legendary creature. But I like the fact that he's still studying the lunar cycle and everything. In the thing that gets me a little bit right about this card is stars. How
Yeah.
how do they work on planes? Because he's definitely like a constellation mage. Like they're different playing into this idea of like geometric kind of shapes between constellations. And obviously they don't outwardly talk about like space and stuff like that within like I know we're going to go into space with Infinity next year, but that's not really the point, right? We don't normally get space when it comes to planes. So it's interesting that we've got a mage who specifically looks at like celestial bodies and stuff, considering that's kind of a bit of a murky metaphysical kind of grey area.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that he's no longer like almost like placid. I feel like when you're a mono blue wizard, you're like kind of more placid about it. Whereas when you add the red in, you kind of get a bit more into your research. You're kind of being more proactive with it. So I'd like to see if we see him progress into another Innistrad set. In general, it's just nice to have him be in it. And if people are going like, "Oh, how do you know it's the same guy?" He's literally wearing the exact same fucking outfit. He's clearly, obviously meant to be. I also like this idea that the more he gets bigger and more experienced, the more night and day cycles that he experiences. So I like the idea of that progresses and that allows his research to cost him less effort because of the amount of research and work that he's put into it, kind of thing. I also like the fact that he's strong enough to, when he comes into play, sets a day and night cycle. It's quite cool to see those effects on cards that aren't necessarily related to werewolves or anything like that. To have this individual like, okay, now we're setting the day and night cycle into the game specifically. I mean, I guess you also then have to. Yeah, because day and night will still flip back and forth regardless of whether or not you've got werewolves in play or day-bound, night-bound cards to flip back and forth.
The game is just in either day or night bound.
Yeah, which is quite nice. I like the fact they've moved that just outside of being a purely day-bound, night-bound. I guess that kind of goes against what I said last episode, where I was annoyed there weren't more cards that had day-bound and night-bound that weren't werewolves. I guess it's the same idea. They just didn't have a flip kind of effect to it. They just put it all on the front side. But yeah, again, I just love seeing characters go from normal creatures to legendaries. Like we saw this with Nahiri, with Stoneforge Mystic kind of being the lead into, and then with Master Transmuter being Breya, but not in the legendary creature. I like it when we see little throwbacks because you can kind of go, oh, okay, they went back and they looked through and they saw, let's develop these characters not from nothing, but from our own source book, as it were. So yeah, very cool Vadric. I like him a lot.
Well, from one sort of known character to another slightly more known character, my last pick is Rem Karalis. Rem Karalis. Karolus. Karolus.
Oh, Karalis or Karalis.
Just call him like Rem Evans
Karalis
or something.
Or Karalis. Rem Karalis.
Rem Karalis.
What's that from? What's that from?
That's the Simpsons episode where they do Planet of the Apes musical.
Yeah, Dr. Seuss. Exactly, that's it. Oh, amazing. Oh, I love it. Fantastic.
Yep. Dr. Seuss. All right. Anyway, Rem Karalis is Van Helsing. He's the Van Helsing of the plane. He is a flavor text character which has appeared throughout every single Innistrad set. He was the Blade of the Inquisitors, then he was the Fiend Slayer, then he was the Slayer of Eldrazi, then he was the Slayer of Angels. Oh, sorry, Slayer of Angels, then Slayer of Eldrazi. And basically, if you've got a big bad creature that the other Cathars can't handle, you get remmed on the case. We did a flavor text episode a while ago where we spoke about characters that have only appeared in flavor text, and indeed ones that have cards that previously only appeared in flavor text, and sort of spoke about how we'd want to see certain characters or what makes a flavor text character become a card and all the trends that we sort of saw. And we spoke about Halana and Elena, the Werewolf Hunter partners, and then they obviously brought out a card for them. That was obviously great, and they're another Innistrad sort of character. But Rem, I think, was one of our honourable mentions because weren't quite sure what they could do with them, and I always wished that Rem would get a card, and now they have one. Rem Karalis, Stalwart Slayer, to keep his naming convention, is a 1 red and white for a 2/3 legendary creature human knight with flying and haste because he is riding his Griff. If a spell would deal damage to you or another opponent you control, prevent that damage. If a spell would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1 instead. So he is so good at his job of defeating the creatures of the night that not only can he protect other people from them, but he does that just a little bit more damage than anyone else because he is that good of a slayer. Honestly, I don't know if I was to design a Rem card, whether this would have been the card I would have designed for him. He seems a bit too righteous for me. I would have preferred to have seen maybe more like a more grizzled veteran, if that makes sense, like someone who has had the shit kicked out of them by like werewolves and angels in the past and they're still kind of going. I wonder if they avoided doing that because it'd be a little bit too close to Geralt from the Witcher series, because that is kind of who I picture when
I
I.
see.
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
Or
didn't
like,
expect him to be like riding a griff, for example. I expected him to be more like a fiend hunter esque kind of card.
well, yes, quite, because that is it. That is like Fiend Slayer is one of his monikers, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like I mean, it's just great. I mean, the reason I've picked Rem is because absolutely need these characters. Like I'm all for new characters, right? And I would never be one against progress for like pushing narrative forwards. But if you have a character that is so prolific on a bunch of cards already, why not just give them a legendary creature card? People obviously like them. You keep using them as a narrative device for your game.
Mm.
So yeah,
I guess that's
brilliant.
the whole point of going back to a plane a few times, right? Is that you have all of these different artworks you can go back and go, which characters can we pull back from? Which ones do we want to see again? Which flavor text what flavor text characters haven't we given cards to? And this is the benefit of having a set that you can do multiple visits to before it starts feeling tired and boring. So you go, cool, we've still got a bevy and a wealth of options to kind of like pull from. Which again, it makes the previous world building more substantial. And it grounds it even further, and then it also extends the current world building because the world's it's not necessarily bigger, it's just deeper, right?
Yeah,
You get to know a few more different people that I didn't know they existed, but you get other people like, oh, we knew these guys existed. As you said, it's about time we saw them. Also, the artwork by Francesco Miara, I don't know, something about it. It's not particularly complicated. It's not super like it's like Raymond Swanland artwork, right? Or like Seb McKinn artwork has like super stylistic quality. There's something about it that's really regal. It presents him in this like kind of super. I don't know. Something about it that really gets me. I don't know. I'm a big fan. Big
yeah.
fan.
Not what I
Yeah,
expected from this character, but absolutely welcome and really happy to see them get a creature card as well.
absolutely.
Cool. Well, I
Um,
think that wraps it up, does it not?
It is. I just want to say one little thing off the back of that, and that's mood. Jesus Christ, the mood in this. I found it really difficult to pull flavor picks because I didn't want to go for anything too obvious, but there were so many little cards that I was like, but the mood of the card is so perfect. Looking at say like Jeren Corrupted Bishop, which flips into Ormondale, like the fact he's looking up into the camera, and it's like from the perspective of Ormondale looking down at his peon. I love the idea of Awoken Demon, this idea of this demon erupting out of the flesh of the priest instead of just summoning the demon, or it actually like summons out of you, which is really cool. The flavor text on that's really visceral. Even something like Olivia's Midnight Ambush, like the joy in her face, like they've done such a good job of having like emotional evocation in the cards. Like it really sells the set. I was kind of worried going in that again we wouldn't have the same amount of feeling that we got because Eldritch Moon kind of again Eldrazi washed the set a little, whereas I really feel the emotion of this set, but right down to the characters, into individual characters, individual cards, everything. Yeah, it's got a really good mood, and as some people have said that I've heard, like the artwork even down to commons and stuff is just so good. Like as you said at the top of the episode, I can't remember who the artistic director for the set.
Taylor Ingwerson.
Yeah, like cannot do any wrong. This set is a crowning achievement for him. Like honestly, really good. I cannot complain. I'm really looking forward to opening because sometimes the cards only look amazing when they're in hand, right?
Sure.
Like they look not only amazing, but they look even better in hand. So I'd be excited to get my hand on some of these, especially like the Equinox borders and stuff. I feel like this set is just so stunning. It's so pretty.
Yeah, 100%.
And it really sells Innistrad.
100%. Cool. Well, that will do it for us then, guys. If you have any flavor picks that you would like to tell us about, hit us up on our Twitter at mtflavouring. Our emails go to mtflavouring@gmail.com. My personal Twitter is at AndyManface. Nathan's, yours is?
At the Fox in the Moon.
Tell us if you like Dragons on Innistrad and try and explain to us how you're not completely and utterly wrong. Also, tell us what creatures... this is something I do desperately want to know. Tell us what creatures you would expunge from which planes. So, like, I would take dragons out of Innistrad in a heartbeat. What would you do? Would you take Minotaurs out of Ravnica? Would you take angels out of Amonkhet? What kind of magic staple creature do you think that they just chuck in for any old bloody reason and they shouldn't do? Let us know. Cool. Yeah. Apologies for the cold. We also had some technical difficulties recording this episode, so if a couple of very obvious edits are in there, I do apologise. But yeah, you got to get to work, Nathan.
I do. I've got a lot of shit to do. It's Friday. I know that doesn't mean anything because we're going to be releasing this a different day. But for me, it's Friday.
Well, if it's Friday,
that's why that's beginning of like the hectic part of my weekend. So yeah, lots of stuff to do, unfortunately. But yeah, still enjoyed it. Still a good episode. Gotta love Innistrad. It's a shame right now. That's it. It's done now. We've got to move on to Crimson Vow. Which I guess is still Innistrad, so there's at least a silver lining there in terms of sets moving quickly. Well, at least we're not moving plain again.
Oh no, well, we'll be doing our story episode next week is probably what we'll do if all of these story articles have been released, which they should.
They should have, yeah.
If not, we'll do a book club episode on a specific side story, because we'll probably keep the main the story episodes to the main narrative, the kind of like A track, if you like. So if all that hasn't been released by then, we'll do a side story book club episode, because I know there is one that you are desperate to talk about, Nathan. But yeah, so look out for those. All right, guys. All that remains for me to say is thank you so much for listening. This has been Magic the Flavouring.
We'll see you soon.